So, Jamie, you want to know something really interesting?
I do.
One thing that you need to understand is the more content that's filmed and the less valuable the content actually becomes, because it's very hard to follow everything. And I say this because this content in particular is part of a legal matter, which in reality, if I choose to delete this content after the legal matter is concluded, that's easy to do. But when human beings are accused of frivolous litigation like myself, I need to point to the amount of effort that I've put into legally adjudicating my matters, which have gone very, very poorly. Because why would anyone want the truth to come out if they are the people that have to pay the consequences for the things that I say? Do you understand?
Who are you talking about specifically?
An example is the bankruptcy court from when I filed a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Why would anyone in bankruptcy court ever agree to anything that I say if in reality all of this should have been addressed during my Chapter 7 filing,
the first time,
which we will get to.
Correct.
And one of the most important things that I need your help on is keeping me on track. So jump in the front over here, and I'm going to explain to you what we're going to be doing.
Let's do it.
And you're going to keep me on track on this one.
I'm ready.
We're only doing two things and only one thing at a time.
Okay.
So it is not possible for us to proceed with any legal matters until we resolve one judgment.
Okay.
Not all the judgments.
I get it.
Because essentially every single case is different, but they're very similar. The circumstances are very similar. It is me and my name being manipulated and utilized in order to either obtain a fraudulent loan or circumvent a legal decision that's made by dumping me in the front. I am the only person that anyone cares about for some reason.
You are, admittedly, on the record yesterday.
So the record will reflect in court if it ever gets produced. That's a different subject altogether, but in general, my records are withheld from me. It is very often that you try to get records from the court and they just simply are not cooperative. Is this true?
It's also a price thing.
Yeah, so in order for people to understand that it is not realistic for human beings who are pro se to be paying thousands of dollars for transcripts that are tax funded. The entire process is funded by tax dollars. Therefore, it's paradoxical and incoherent to charge money. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't, it's counterproductive. So when we look at this case, Risis v. Risis, within this case, I very clearly stated the facts regarding my mother utilizing my name and forging my signature in order to obtain a loan for the company that she ended up destroying. That's it. All we're going to be doing on this YouTube channel is talking about the forgery and utilizing that as testimony to present to the court to see if there is any pulse or logic in the brains of the court to not be insulted by what I say, but react, act, take action when you are presented with facts such as this. It is very easy to point a finger at Mr. Risis right over here and say the way you act is inappropriate, you state disparaging comments, your entire viewpoint of the way you present your arguments is insulting, but it's very, very difficult to look at the facts that I present.
Okay, so let's hear it.
Okay, my name is Daniel M. Risis. I never signed the piece of paper that is used as the contractual basis for, at this point, $2 million judgment that is levied upon me. The money was taken from a company called Pawnbroker Financing. It was approximately $600,000. It went to my mother's company. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that the argument, the counter argument against me is nothing more than we already have a perfected judgment, we have a lien, and the judge says, why didn't you address this in the court in Colorado?
Correct.
Are you aware that I hired not one but two law firms that abandoned me in Colorado? Colorado.
Yes.
Okay. It is virtually impossible for a human being who is dealing with the amount of legal issues and living in New Jersey to fly to Colorado and adjudicate matters during COVID.
It actually was when your mother stole
Robbed
from
the
Perfect
business.
Pawn, and we were trying to
Let the courts
let the
know
court
what's going on.
and law enforcement know. And it was during then that the attorney at the time.
Wait, swear yourself in.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
What's
the
your last
truth.
name, Jamie?
Resnick.
All right, thank you so
It
much.
was during this
All right.
time
Please
that
proceed, Ms.
the
Resnick.
Colorado court was going to go forward, and the attorney said that if you didn't pay him,
Right.
he wasn't going to go
Show
to
up
court.
to trial.
He wasn't going to show up.
And they
it
didn't
was
show
like-
up to trial.
And we pled with them. We explained to them the situation. They just said,
Right, so when that happened, eventually the judgment came over to New Jersey, and
Yes.
at that point I was very confident that law enforcement in New Jersey, who has jurisdiction of the crime, so in my naive perspective, my strategy was very simple. I am a victim of a crime.
Right.
I do not need to fly to Colorado.
Right.
I have police in New Jersey that has jurisdiction over the notary public
Yes.
that was witness to the forgery, my mother, and things like that. But the problem with this is that this case was from the beginning watched over by Judge Salas, and Judge Esther Salas is a very close friend of Bob Menendez. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about nothing more
that
this
this specific one.
case, which is right PB financing right here. So one of the things that has noticeably frustrated me in court is that when I say, hey world, my signature was forged on something which is called identity theft,
Right.
theft by deception, and fraud, as well as forgery, all of that is ignored, and
I
the
want
judge
your money.
and the judge says,
They
"Well,
say.
Mr. Risis, I just don't think it's a convincing argument." How many times have I said that's not my signature, and they said, unfortunately, that's not going to cut it.
Yeah.
That's just not going to cut it. So, and there is no legal precedent for whatsoever. And the reason why I do this is because now Judge Sherwood has to understand that the entire world is going to see me saying, all right, this is not my
They're
signature.
saying it doesn't matter. We
If-
have a judgment.
Right.
We want our money.
That's right.
And we're not going to get the person who forged it or
Right,
who owned the
so
company.
nobody cares about Margarita Risis,
no.
who's the owner of the company and got the
Correct.
money for her company that she
That's it.
destroyed. And the company, the lawyers, what's his name, Timothy Dugan?
Yes.
Don't even put his name on the board, he's not even worth it, because he is a criminal who has harassed me and my family by utilizing the
lie of the thing.
circumstances of the fact that his client is the lucky beneficiary of Bob Menendez and Fred Davies' muting of Dan Risis.
Yes,
And that
that's
web of
true.
lies I might put together today. I probably
that's a
will do
good
it
one.
today. I'll do a third item. But essentially, if you're a human being in the United States of America and you find yourself a victim of fraud and identity theft, you do not owe the money for it. No matter how many lawyers are going to try to convince you that you are responsible for it. Had I been the principal owner or the responsible party for any of this stuff, it would be a different set of circumstances. But not only do I not own the company,
Right.
I was defrauded by the
Correct.
owner of the company. And the only link is that she's my mother. So if this was anybody else, this would never be happening. But because...
But even the judge yesterday said to him, why are
Do you know
going after
Margaret-
Margarita
and what did
Risis?
Mrs.
He said,
Answer?
I don't care.
We don't
I
want
don't even
her.
want her money.
Yeah,
I
we don't want
his money.
Yeah, I just want...
On the record!
On the record, and the judge was like, what? And essentially, like, it's very clear. So for me, I would love to have any representative for any of these clowns that are going after my money, but
It's just so
I
personal.
can't. It's very
so
personal,
personal.
and it's very transparent. It's sad that we have come to this point that I have to out people on YouTube and say, look, if my career does not take off, that is solely because human beings have taken advantage of the circumstances I'm in to defraud me further.
Yeah.
This isn't a matter of I owe money, I took money, I built my house stealing money. That's not true at all. As a matter of fact, I know the difference between the people who legitimately I owe money to. For example, like Jared from Long Island, I think he's a really good guy, and I think that I'm fully aware of what he invested in the small venture that we tried. And essentially, I feel that I'm responsible for it because even though I asked him not to get involved in my business dealings because of things like this, that I was fully aware that in order to really walk this road, you have to be very committed to the process and understand me extremely well. And a lot of the misunderstandings are because people don't understand that I'm trying to tell them the truth. I'm not lying to them. But the way I articulate myself is so eloquent and so confusing to people that it really causes a disruption in the brain, and people end up hating themselves for trusting me while I tell them, hey, trust is not really what this is about. This is about mathematics. And mathematics, 1 comes before 2. So in order for you to understand that basic concept, you must understand that before I build my empire, and I definitely will be filming a few videos of what I plan on doing, I must resolve these issues. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't know how I can stress this enough. And I wanted to say that this is not what I do all day. I don't film YouTube videos all day, but I do film YouTube videos all day when it's necessary as part of my job. There is no way that any human being can ever make a legitimate income without rectifying any misunderstandings. Whether or not they're legitimate or not, they must be handled.
I agree.
And I've been trying to do it for 5 years, but if I am systemically suppressed and I really have a very important job and I've done a lot of good for the people of the United States, can you imagine what happens to the regular person who actually has some criminality? See, one of the things I want to remind everyone is that I don't have anything to hide. And it's not a matter of principle that I'm doing this, but it's a matter of sanity.
I mean, if someone
Human
didn't
beings
have
can't keep
your
talking.
ability to articulate and fight for yourself, they would just be bullied into probably losing their whole life for something that they shouldn't have.
Right,
You know,
that's really, it's sad.
It is.
It's sad because the PB financing and the legal system, as well as law enforcement, they don't really understand the dangers of what they're messing with. And what I say that is, I am not a violent human being, and I'm not a human being that is interested in enacting any form of violence, nor am I in a bad mental state at this point. I'm extremely happy and coherent, and these videos help me out a lot because they save me an immense amount of energy and effort that I would have to put into legal filings. Now, that being said, unfortunately, Judge Esther Salas, her son was a victim of a human being who was so frustrated with the system that their mental state was not good, and they snapped, and she had to pay the ramifications. And it's a sad, horrible thing, but this is the truth. This is the world that we're living in, that human beings like myself have to spend their days, instead of having a job or working, they must fight for their own survival just to get to point 0.
Yeah.
That's all I'm trying to do.
True.
That's all I'm trying to do is get my properties and be done with things that I don't owe for, so that there's people who I actually owe a small amount of actual real debts that I really want to address, but I can't do that because these
With
people
like
interfering, and that's really what my closing argument is, that there is, if anyone can, the burden of proof is on me, like the judge said. My testimony speaks for itself. I never signed it. That is a forgery that my mother forged my initials and stamped my name, and the notary public will be brought up as part of a formal motion to give testimony of whether or not they met me if someone doesn't believe this is enough.
Right.
You know, this might be enough. And I say this because why would someone not believe a person when they're willing to show forensic evidence, willing to submit themselves to any law enforcement inquiries whatsoever, but none of that happens.
No.
So essentially, this video might be enough. In this testimony, as well as the thousands of cases that have protected victims of identity theft and fraud, should be more than enough to get past this hurdle.
Correct.
So
how do you want to wrap it up? How do you want to end this?
Well, I want to end with
testimony
I want to end with the legal counter argument, which is, I'm sorry, it's just Mr. Risis, it's either too late or it's not enough. And one, it's not too late. The statute of limitation hasn't even come close to expiring. It's about 10 years. And two, the concept of existing as a human being not being enough is laughable. And Judge Sherwood is going to have to rule on me owing money for something that I never did.
Exactly.
And this is the point where that's how I want to wrap it up.
That's a good one.
He has to say that a human being who is a victim of fraud is now legally responsible.
Yeah.
For what reasoning or what it is, and they can't just say, because the other person already ruled on it.
Either you're responsible or you're not.
Yeah. So at this court juncture, this judge is going to make the final ruling, and everyone at home obviously will see that if I'm responsible for something that I'm a victim of, you have no chance whatsoever.
No.
Not to mention the fact that there's an appeal process that's going to have to go through where Judge Sherwood's sanity is going to be questioned, because what kind of a judge can possibly ignore testimony that's public stating that, hey, I am a victim of crime? I don't understand how anyone could ignore this.
Right.
But
and you brought it up in the previous...
I brought it up hundreds of times, and if it wasn't for Gold Bar Bob, we wouldn't even be here. Richard Trank and all these other clowns. All right, let's wrap it up.
All right.
Wait, we have a couple of more minutes.
Me too.
Is there any, housekeeping. Essentially, there is a process that I have to go through that is extremely delicate, sensitive, and cannot be adversely affected via my opinion on YouTube. So I only stick to the facts. This video is used as evidence.
Correct.
In the case.
Correct.
Since I am not able to really speak without being interrupted and without having mud thrown in my face by the other parties, by reminding me of the other crimes that I'm a victim of. All their legal argument is, well, we already addressed this in the other court. And I'm here on YouTube saying that I am a victim of political corruption and judicial indifference at the hands of some of the most powerful people. Therefore, the results of that crime and those court should never be used as validation.
Right.
And that's where Judge Sherwood comes into the spotlight, because he could be a part of this conspiracy, maybe he is not, but there's no way to avoid public opinion. And the court of public opinion in today's day and age of 2025 is far more important than legal court, especially when it comes to the concept of fraud. Fraud at the hands of people that you trust. And here we will be able to really, on YouTube, play out the scenario of what do you do when you are at your wit's end with the legal system.
This.
Right here. And that's why I'm here.
Exactly.
That's why I'm here. There's no more motions that can be filed without testimony that is live and in person and that will be played in court.
That is the link for this case.
Yeah, of course.
This is your answer.
This one right now,
Yes.
but eventually we're going to film additional content that goes into step 2 and 3 and 4. And
I think that's good. You clarified exactly. You gave your testimony, the background.
I appreciate that. I also appreciate your testimony that you gave. And it's very important that, Judge Sherwood, you see that you have two people saying that this is not my signature. The witness to the entire process, as well as the actual victim. I don't mind being suppressed, but for them to completely ignore what you have to say really is laughable, and it shines a light onto how weak the case against me is.
Right.
That you suppress, you're just ignoring people and facts. This isn't an actual legal argument. It's like Looney Tunes.
It is.
It's Looney Tunes. It's like crazy people that are just like, you owe us money. We already have a piece of paper.
What do you want? They were like, I just want it. And he's like, why? Because I do.
Because I do. And we have a judgment against Mr. Risis.
I want it.
Yeah, so like, well, what about the fact that he's a victim of crime? We don't care about that, and we have no evidence to support that whatsoever. But what about the fact that he didn't sign the piece of paper? We have a judgment, we have a perfected judgment, and we're going after his assets and everything.
Yeah.
And people who are scared of people like that are not only weak, they empower the bullies so much. And it's sad that we live in this type of society, and if you're Timmy Dugan's kids,
he just used
you should really,
intimidation tactics. Well, like Timmy Dugan is just.
It's laughable because
it's criminal.
well, it is criminal. Obviously, there are many laws that are already enacted to protect people like myself from harassment and persistence. So, for example, Jamie has a warrant issued for her arrest.
We were harassed very much by Timmy Dugan.
Yeah, of course. But first, we have to dismiss this and get me out of it. Then we can address the harassment. The harassment, in their opinion, is valid because they believe that I somehow...
The harassment ignored by...
Oh, Judge Salas supported the harassment, actually. As a matter of fact, she issued court orders protecting people that are harassing me versus protecting me, who is the victim of harassment. And a lot of that has to...
We have to wrap this up.
Oh, Daniel's Law? I guess we'll talk about Daniel's Law another time. My name is Daniel, and I'm out.